It started off as a fairly normal delivery job. There were two brand new tugs built in St. Petersburg and two teams of us sent out to take them to Singapore. And we went in parallel through the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, and then the other one developed some serious air conditioning problems. So at the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb in the bottom of the Red Sea, she went off to Oman to get repairs, and I was directed to carry on alone to Singapore. And on the 1st of February 2008, we were 70 miles off the Horn of Africa.
Do you want to just show us on the map whereabouts that is?
When up here, about 70 miles up there, we were attacked initially by one fast white plastic skiff, 6 meters, with a 48 horsepower Yamaha engine and 5 gunmen. And at first I thought I would be able to keep them off, because with these very powerful thrusters that
let's hold that image. I mean, when you saw them, what was going through your mind when you saw that?
Well, you know, here come pirates.
You knew that?
They got guns and they're coming fast at us, and we just had time to send distress messages, alert the crew, close the steel watertight doors on the main deck, and assemble in the bridge and increase the revs and the pitch to maximum power. And we were ready to, you know, repel boarders.
And how fast could your ship go?
Oh, only about 12 knots our maximum, and they were doing 30, 35. But we have these very powerful thrusters which can operate in 360 degrees. So as they approached on the quarter, I thrust violently towards them, nearly hit them, and they veered away. And they made 2 or 3 attempts at that, firing their guns laterally, but fortunately not at us, only to intimidate us. And I was really growing in confidence that they would never get aboard like this, because, you know, I could throw the ship about so violently that there's no way they could have jumped aboard. And then, in fact, somebody shouted out, "There's only 4 in the boat." So we feared that one had managed to jump on board, but in fact then we saw him swimming. He'd been washed over the side, and he lost his ladder and his gun, and he was swimming.
Did the other pirates go to help him?
Yes, I did think of reversing over him and sort of chewing him up, you see, but I soon abandoned that idea, because I thought they would certainly shoot at us then. And I really wasn't feeling murderous at that point. I just wanted to keep them off. So I didn't attack him, as it were. But then the second boat appeared, and there were 5 in the first boat, 4 in the second, all armed, and they came at us from both sides. So as I was thrashing the stern about, you know, it was like tumultuous water and like a whirlwind there, and we were all shouting and swearing in Russian and English, and, you know, obviously the adrenaline must have been flowing, and we were excited or terrified or what. You didn't have time to think. But, you know, it's like 2 hounds on a stag or 2 lions on a wild beast. You can't win, you know. And you make it difficult for one, you're making it easier for the other. And eventually somebody shouted they're aboard. So then I pulled the thrusters together, dropped the revs, dropped the pitch and everything, and we just waited in a sort of a hush on the wheelhouse for them to appear.
And when you knew they were on board, I mean, what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, I mean, this is it. Now you go from sort of murderous intent to being humble sort of hostage, you know, they're in control. And the first 2 in the wheelhouse was this little fat one who said he was Andrew and spoke English, and he said, "This is our captain Omar," who didn't speak any English, but he looked a far more menacing chap. And but they quickly explained that they didn't want to kill or harm anyone, they just wanted ransom money. They would hold the ship and crew for ransom, and provided we didn't misbehave, we would be, you know, taken care of. And So I passed the word to the Russians and everyone that...
Had you had time to brief the rest of the crew?
No, not at all. But, you know, they dictated to us from then on, and I just said, don't do anything stupid or hasty. In fact, I had my hands flat on the chart table, you know, just show I wasn't reaching for anything. And so just do as they say until we see the situation. And really, that's what went on for the next 47 days. We did as they said. After 3 or 4 days, when they had directed me to go down the coast and anchor off this ale place.
Do you want to just show us roughly on the map? I know it's a bit small, but it's
yeah,
probably...
we went down, that was Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they took us down the coast. The Russian mate and I relieved each other to have a bit of sleep. And until we got to this place, Ale, which is really just a fishing village, but is a bit of a pirate haunt. And there they made me anchor. And then they got reinforcements, including a little one we called the mullah. He had a white cap and a dirty long robe and a fluffy beard. And he did all the praying for all the rest. The others never prayed. He'd roll his little mat out and pray. And they brought goats and stuff aboard to eat, and this cat which they chew, which is narcotic. Apparently Muslims are not allowed alcohol, but they're allowed to chew this narcotic weed. And so they had a plentiful supply of that, which I was relieved to see. It only made them mellow, it never made them aggressive. It made them sleepy and mellow. And shortly after that, an American warship appeared, which really frightened.
So you must have been quite excited at that prospect.
Well, we were. I thought, here comes help, it'll all be over shortly. But of course the Americans were afraid to attack the ship because we might have been killed in the crossfire. So we assumed that's why the Americans didn't attack.
Did they send messages over on the radio?
They put out a VHF standard message which to the effect that we will not permit you to resupply. In other words, when you run out of your food and that, you know, we won't allow you to resupply. Get off of the ship, leave the hostages safe and sound, and we won't hurt you. But this was a joke because the Americans couldn't enforce that. We were in shallow water, the warship was in deep water, and the supply boats would come along the shore till they were hidden behind us, and then they'd bring the supplies back and forth, change of personnel, everything. So it was a rather hollow threat. Anyway, sort of 11 days went by.
And you were at sea, you weren't on land?
At anchor,
yeah.
At anchor, and by now we were drinking camel's milk and eating goats and stuff like that. Their pirate cook was better than our Russian ABs, so we were quite happy to eat his food.